There's no early speculation. There's no early trading, and so I have no stress going into Eurovision. There is beauty in simplicity. With this investor model strategy, I know I'll be taking on less risk, but I'll be able to sleep at night. And come the hours before the Eurovision Grand Final, I know I'll be able to execute this game plan effectively because I'll be in a healthy state of mind. Hello everyone, let's talk about where we go from here. Let's talk about some risks that we need to be aware of. Let's talk about some starter investor tips if you're a beginner. And let's talk about future updates. Just as a disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I'm not a qualified financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research. Now, when it comes to risks, even being on stage in Eurovision is a risk because this singer caught fire. I think this was in the early 2000s. So the main risk factor to the investor model strategy is understanding that the investor model is a probabilistic model. It's not a deterministic model. So what do I mean by this? A probabilistic model assesses future events and assigns a probability of an outcome. So it accounts for randomness. A good example of this is trying to predict a 6 on a die roll. The probability is 1 in 6. A deterministic model calculates future events with certainty, and it doesn't involve randomness. So an example of a deterministic model is calculating a home loan repayment schedule. The Eurovision Investor model is a probabilistic model. Therefore, we cannot ever interpret the results as certain outcomes. We must consider the possibility that the investor model will not predict the winner of Eurovision, and so we need to plan accordingly. We can manage this risk by utilizing a variety of defensive bets, by allocating a lower position size and looking to profit over a multi-year time frame, not in a short-term time frame. We can also think about reducing the betting complexity by not trading. And also we can reduce the risk by applying optimal timing as to when our bets are placed, which is ideally before the grand final. There are many other risk factors that we need to be aware of, so here's a list of them. The first is acts of God, such as a singer gets interrupted on stage by a stage heckler, which happened in 2010 and 2018, or an artist suffers an injury during the rehearsal. This happened in 2018 as well. Or there could be staging mishaps. This happened in 2022. And even the artist falls off the stage. This happened in 2013. We also need to be aware of any changes to the format and voting criteria of the song contest that may affect the methodology of the model. We also need to be aware of the human element, such as improper use of the model with wrong calculations or ignoring confidence intervals and not using the latest version of the model. We also need to be aware of incorrect bet sizing, taking on too much risk, not having a variety of bets, and also not being able to survive and return the following year. There will always be the temptation to bet on hype, instinct, news and rumors, betting on false expert analysis, betting before the semi-final, but also within ourselves, there is the temptation to give in to our emotions of greed and fear, and so we won't be following the process. We'll be ill-disciplined with our capital. So, how do my favorite songs compare against the investor model songs? Well, in 2015, my favorite song was Sweden, Heroes, and the investor model song was Sweden. Sweden came first that year. I did pretty well. 2016, my favorite song was Ukraine. The investor model's song was Ukraine. Ukraine won Eurovision. So I'm doing really well. And I'm thinking, gosh, I've got a talent for this. But unfortunately, 2017 and onwards, this is where things go downhill for me. 2017, my favorite song was Sweden. Sweden came fifth. The investor model aced it with Portugal. Portugal came first. 2018, my favorite song was Belgium. I absolutely loved that haunting Bond-esque ballad. Unfortunately, they didn't even qualify. The investor model saved the day with Israel. Israel came first. 2019, I loved the Australian song. I thought it was very clever, very creative. I enjoyed the song. Unfortunately, they came ninth. The investor model picked the winner again. Netherlands came first. There was no Eurovision in 2020 because of COVID, so we come down to 2021. My favourite song that year was France. I'm getting closer. France came second, but the investor model beat me to it. The investor model chose Italy, the rock song, and Italy came first. 2022, my favourite song was Sweden. I just love Swedish songs, Swedish pop songs. Unfortunately, they came fourth. The investor model chose Ukraine first. Are you seeing a pattern here? As good as I think I am, as much research I've done, listening to these songs, thinking that the jury's going to love these songs or that this song is going to be a hit with the public, I am very deeply flawed. Very deeply flawed. The investor model has got it right. So this is how I see it. I'm drunk, had too much to drink, and I'm walking the dog. I'm trying to walk on this footpath, but I'm so drunk, I'm veering to either side, left and right. I can't stay on this footpath. I know I need to get to point B, but I'm really, really having trouble doing this. I'm so compromised. And this is me here, and I see the investor model as the dog, my pet dog. My pet dog has all of its senses, is aware of all of its senses. It's a very clever pet dog, and it's keeping me on the footpath. So am I walking the dog, or is the dog walking me? Well, the way I see it is the investor model is such a valuable tool to have in your betting arsenal. I think the dog walks the owner. What's the lesson here? The lesson is that early speculation on your favorite song is futile.